Hey guys, what's going on? So, if you really wanted to, you can totally just treat this like a podcast. This is going to be a long one because this is going to be an updated tier list for Rush Royale. So, this is my current tier list, and I'll explain everything as we go along. This is S tier, which I think are the best cards, and I did put them in order of what I think, why I think they are the best. And then this is A. And then that's B. And again, I'll explain all of these. That's C. And that's D. And then I have extra cards that are down here that, again, I will explain. To compare, this was my original tier list that I did as the second video that I ever did on this channel. And it looks drastically different. So the way I did this was S tier was I thought that they were the best cards. A tier was cards that I think that you can build around and that should probably be put into every deck. B tier was like if they got talents, they might be okay, but they're like utility cards. They're kind of okay right now. C tier was if they really got talents, they'd probably jump like really high. D tier were basically just the worst cards. I didn't even really want to talk about any of those. They were just far and away like the worst cards. And then for new accounts, I had an entire section where I didn't know what to do with. But I felt like if you had a newer account, all of these cards were good. But if you had an older account, like if you started getting the S tier, A tier, B tier things, you would use those instead. And that included all of those. I felt like all of those cards were good if you had a newer account. And then the new on the bottom was cards that didn't even come out yet. So obviously I did this in August of last year. All of those didn't even come out yet, so I didn't even have the ability to rank them. But that is essentially what my old tier list was if you wanted to compare. So let's go through this. S tier. Cards that I think right now are currently the best things in order. Obviously, it is Dark Inquisitor. It is Dark Inquisitor and Light Inquisitor. Both of them are just the dominant deck. I don't understand. Okay, so the whole reasoning why I even thought to do this was that Discord, there's a post on Discord, and they talk about upcoming changes that they're going to make. They were saying that Dark Inquisitor has a quote-unquote 55% win rate, which isn't even the highest win rate in the game for a single card. And I think they're insane, because I can't even imagine what is better than that. Because when you're going up against players, that's all you see. I think it's a generally known fact that even though they tried to nerf Inquisitor, which they are apparently again in the next update, Inquisitor is just the most dominant card. And so they are going to nerf it again in the next update, and that's what made me encourage me to do this, to do an updated tier list. Also because there's just been so many changes. Number 2, let's talk about this guy. Let's talk about the placement of this guy in my last one. Where even is this guy? For new accounts, Trapper. Don't use him unless you have new accounts. Where is he now? Second. That man skyrocketed. When they decided to update the way his functionality works, and they decided to make it infinitely better by allowing him to throw multiple pretzels. He used to just be called Pretzel Thrower. I like from Games by the Beach. I used to call him Pretzel Thrower because that's what he was. He was just terrible. Nobody used him. I can't even tell you how many I've sacrificed. I think I've sacrificed at least 5 or 6 over the course of my account. Trappers, because I was just so happy to get a crystal from him to upgrade other things. And my God, is that guy just the best thing. He slows, he does defense down. He made Chemist and Bombardier obsolete. They are in D tier, which are cards, spoiler alert, they're cards that I don't even feel like talking about. Trapper, it just does everything that you need a deck to do. You need a deck to, as a utility card, you need it to slow, and you need it to do defense down, which is exactly what Bombardier and Chemist did, but he does it better. Maybe he's not as efficient as Chemist if you had a single Chemist that you were upgrading, but multiple Trappers doesn't make it worse for you in the same way that having multiple Bombardiers or multiple Chemists would make it worse for you on the field. Having multiple Trappers makes it actually better because the damage, the stack damage that he does becomes exponential. So I'm gonna go through it really quick here. Oh, here we go. So at level 9, I'm just gonna take a drink because I know that I'm gonna be talking a lot here. At level 9, his armor destruction is 60%, with the max being 120%. So if you have 2 Trapper pretzels on the field at the same time, and they're on top of each other, at level 9, at level 1, actually, I don't know if that changes. No, that doesn't change it. Actually, nothing changes it. The only thing that changes the armor destruction is increasing the level. So upgrade your Trappers, folks. You are getting, at level 9, 120% armor destruction. You're dealing 120% more damage to a target if 2 traps are on top of each other on the same thing. Which is why, if you have multiple Trappers throwing a whole bunch of traps onto the field, there's a chance that more than 2 will be on the same thing. At max, this goes to what, 90%? 90% armor destruction with the max being 180%. You could be dealing 180% more damage for when you have 2 traps on the same thing. It's insane. And then it slows the target by 15%. That's a flat stat. The duration changes when you upgrade it. The attack interval at which he throws it is the only thing that changes. But I mean, like, slowing the target for just a flat 15% is huge. Obviously, the armor destruction is insane. Trapper became, like, because he used to just throw them randomly, and that's what also made him terrible. But with those 2 things that they decided to change to just functionally make him different, he's now like one of the best things. It works in every deck. It makes every deck better. I'm actually shocked that they didn't decide to nerf him with how good they made him. But yeah, like as is right now, without talents, I would say he's number 2. I still think that Portal Keeper is number 3. In my last one, I took the hot take that Portal Keeper is the best card in the game. For the same reasons that I thought that he was the best card in the game, I think that he's still one of the best cards in the game. Saving anything, as your account gets later, and you start getting tiles on the floor, I think that, you know, being able to not have to summon. Okay, so like let's say you're running Inquisitor, and you're trying to not run Portal Keeper, and you're trying to get an Inquisitor on a tile, and you have to keep eating Inquisitors. If you didn't have to do that, and you used Portal Keeper, you could not waste all of those summon-ins, and you could be upgrading that one on a square, and you could automatically have it on a square. So even in a non-obvious deck, like a Blade Dancer deck, like a Cultist deck, like an Engineer deck, even in a non-obvious deck, like an Inquisitor deck, it just makes the Inquisitor deck better. If they decide to like mess with the shield, and you were forced to use an Inquisitor, a Dark Inquisitor, and a Portal Keeper, you could do that too. You could make the Inquisitor deck infinite forever anyway. Like, even if they break the shield, if you decided to run Portal Keeper with it, you could make it infinite anyway. You're just running the one card that you care about. Like, Portal Keeper just does so much. And even though they changed the max switch time to 10 seconds, I want to say it's, or 5 seconds. They changed it to 5 seconds at max, when it used to be like 2 seconds. Even though they changed the switch time to 5 seconds, it's still good because they messed with Shaman. And so it's the immediacy of it changing isn't incredibly necessary. I mean, like, I would love it obviously for Blooming Dash Blade Dancer, but I mean, besides that, you know, like, it's not as important as it was before. Scrapper is still one of the best cards in the game. I think it works in every deck. I think most decks are made better because of it. And I think that as good as Dryad is, it can only take you so far. Scrapper will take you that extra mile. If Dryads can get you to 3 very easily and very efficiently, Scrapper can get you to 5, 6, 7 in the same way that Dryad can get you to 1, 2, 3, 4. I think that it's important. I think that leveling it up is important. I took my Scrapper to 12, and at max, the chance for bonus for the double enhancement is what, 40%? It's 40%. And like a non-weighted coin toss, like every other, activation, giving you a double increase. I think that's pretty good. Like, if you're running Tesla, if you're running Blade Dancer, it's just, it gives you something to do with your infinite mana that you're accumulating throughout the whole game. Tesla fell off. I still think that Tesla is one of the best cards beyond, like Dark Inquisitor Shield. The talents that they gave to Tesla, the fact that he has the protective field, I think the fast recharge is the better one. Yeah. A 30% chance of the Tesla getting an extra charge. And then I think static discharge is the better one. I obviously don't use Tesla a lot. I could upgrade it to 11 and I just chose not to. And then obviously when it gets maxed, Tesla, the ability to deal so much damage to a single target as well as to multiple targets, is what makes it, is what's going to keep it at where it is. The problem with Blade Dancer has always been dealing with multiple targets. The problem with Spirit Master is somewhat like being able to deal damage to multiple targets. Like, they have the power to deal direct damage. I mean, obviously we'll talk about Blade Dancer. Blade Dancer is much different now. But the problem before was that they only had the ability to deal damage to singular targets. And if you had too many numbers in waves, you would just get overwhelmed. Tesla dealt as much damage to single targets as it did to multiple targets. Inquisitor's problem before was that it did... Inquisitor had the same Cultist problem, where it dealt damage to multiple targets really well, but not enough to a single target. Tesla does so much damage to single targets as well as multiple targets, and then gets better. And then that on a Night Statue with Trapper, utilizing like the Blade Dancer setup, the old school Blade Dancer setup, but with Tesla, using Trapper instead of Chemist here, I think it's still one of the best decks. I put Blade Dancer next. I think Blade Dancer is one of the top tier cards. The Blooming Dash version that I've been showcasing, I believe to be the better version of the Blade Dancer deck. Blooming Dash, Fencing, Serrated Blades, Dance. I think it's far better than the Frenzy version. the Frenzy, Elegant Parry, Serrated Blades, or Triple Dance. I think that this is the better version of the deck. You have the ability to get to level 3, level 4 Blade Dancers and just get to triple bosses. Any deck that can get to triple bosses, I feel like is pretty good. This is the deck that I'm running, and I think and it only has the ability to get better. If I can get Dryad with the like level 15 Dryad where you're getting like double upgrades, I can go, because normally I'm going from like between 3 and 4. If I started getting the double upgrade and waiting on those for my 3s, going from 3 to 5 would be nutty. Like, I don't even know what that would even be like for this deck. To be able to have like a field of five level 5 Blade Dancers with this deck being as protected as it is, I can't even imagine. I don't think it's as good as Tesla, obviously, and it's definitely not as good as Inquisitor with the infinite shields. I think Tesla is easier to use if you have it at max, because it's essentially the old Blade Dancer deck. But I think that if I get like Dryad, if I get max Dryad, I think I'll have a different opinion about, like a max Blade Dancer deck. Monk, I think that Monk is really bad at level 7 to 9. But as you get more and more of the talents, I think that Monk is really, really good. I have gone up against Monk decks with my Blade Dancer deck, where my Blade Dancer deck has the ability to go to triple bosses, and that dude has the ability to hang so late game. Blessing is the better of the two. Blessing is the better of the two. And then if you go Illumination. Activating a power-up will increase the merge rank of the lowest ranked monk. Being able to just activate its power and just auto-upgrading something is dumb. I think it's Rebirth, or during each power-up, the first monk merge will turn a random non-monk unit into a monk. I think Rebirth is probably better. And then once you have Nirvana and you're getting the power-up increases the monk's chance of critical damage by 5% and AoE to the monks in intersections, I think that's pretty dumb. Like, being able to transform your entire field into monks with Rebirth, being able to upgrade all of your monks every time you use your power-up, and then getting the 5% and the AoE, I think it's really, really good. At that point, you don't even need any other card, and you just sit there like having a gadget, and you just keep upgrading it, and it just keeps upgrading and getting more and more powerful as the game goes on. I think that Monk, with high crit chance and with talents, it's really up there. It is this far up there in the game. Spirit Master I had at the last one. I think it's good. I think because it has all the talents right now. Life Surge is obviously the better one. I believe Earth Power is the better one. Storm Power is obviously the better one. And it's the one that goes... is that it? Yeah. Upon a mana power up of 7 and higher... 13 is where you want to go for. If you are going to run Spirit Master on the ladder. Increasing attack speed against bosses and mini-bosses for 85%. And the 50% chance to purge all negative effects. We live in a meta with so many negative effects that being able to purge all negative effects is very, very key. You do not... I lost a Blade Dancer game because I was trying to run the dumb version, the Floral Frenzy version, and I ended up getting Virused and King Puddinged as my double boss, and I just lost the next round. If you cannot purge effects like that, if you cannot purge Dark Priest, you just die. The ability to, with a 50% chance, purge all negative effects just as a thing, you don't need Portal Keeper, is what has always made him really good. It used to be 100%, but then they thought, oh, that's ridiculous. That would be like giving a shield, an infinite shield to an Inquisitor. That would be insane. And so they dropped it down to 50%. But even at 50% activation every single time, you could just spend more mana into it if you had the mana to upgrade it from 7 to 8, back to 7, back to 8. And then like you could just keep bouncing back and forth on that to eventually purge it out, because 50% chance, like it'll happen eventually. And with each of those activations with Life Surge, you have the 15% chance to increase the merge rank. So not only are you making it more powerful as the game goes on, you're able to purge effects, you're able to upgrade it. It is undoubtedly the best card to come out of an event. I think it's Royal Trials. It's the one that Robot is in. I want to say it's this one. Is it this one? I'm pretty sure it's this one. Is it not this one? Yeah, it's this one. It's the best. I believe that it's the best. I mean, I guess Tesla came out of events, but I think it's the best at early levels. So like even if you have a level 7 Spirit Master, I think it's still good. And then it just gets better as you get more of it. I think Tesla is only good at higher levels with higher abilities, but I think Spirit Master, if you're running a low account and you're trying to focus on just one event card to free to play, my free to play account, my Peanut account, that's completely free to play, Spirit Master was the only thing that I saved for. Every other event I was using to get tokens, epic hero tokens. Royal Trials was the only one that I was saving specifically to get Spirit Master, and it has worked amazingly. Going into A, these are all cards that I think are good. They're just not like the top tier, like you must have and you will win kind of cards. I think Dryad is at the top of it because I think Dryad is good. There's an argument to be made that it could be an S. I think that Dryad with more of her talents are much better. But even at level 9, the level 9 talent is really the only one you need other than the level 15. I don't know if these are going to change your game that much, having the 11 and 13. But the Fairy of Growth will help you so much. Just getting your Dryad to 9 should be your goal. Because beyond that, the only other time it's going to be good is 15. I think that 11 and 13, like anything, and then anything in the middle, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, I think your Dryad will still feel basically the same. You'll still be basically using it for Fairy of Growth. And that ability will just keep happening. That'll be like your main reason for using it. 15 obviously makes it a completely different thing, and you start getting golden fairies, and you get the double upgrades, which will change every single one of your decks. But I think that it's good. It's just not. I mean, unless you have it at 15, like if you have it at 15, it's an S tier card. Let me put it that way. If you have it at a 9, it's A. If you have it at 7, it's probably B. If you have 7 or 8, it's B. If you have it at 9, it's an A. If you have it from 9 to 14, I think it's an A. And if you have it at 15, it's an S. That's what I feel about Dryad. I think it's good. I don't think it's overly good unless you have it at 15. Robot, I think, is the best base damage dealing card that is not any of these S tier cards. I think that it does a lot of damage. I think that all of its talents, including the change to stun rockets, that when it merges or when you merge it out, or I'm sorry, when you summon it or when it merges out, and you get stun rockets, I think that's absolutely insane. But and then obviously having arms race to deal the 10% damage, or the 10% chance of firing a rocket, is pretty good. The robot damage increasing for every 10 merges, increase robot's damage by 25% and rocket damage by 100%, and then increasing your maximum number of merges so that it becomes more and more powerful as the game goes on to 60. And then if you have the level 15 talent, I think that all of these things make it really good. I don't think that it's good because you simply can't run enough things to support even more damage. Because I would like to run Trapper, but at the same time, I also want to affect my opponent's field other than just stunning. So I started to run Shaman. There's obviously like the clock version, where you run, where you run the clock. There's a part of me that thinks you should be running like Boreas, for the sleep arrows. And then you could have, if you have like a max Boreas, where is it? No. Oh, here we go. At that point, I think I would take out that. If you ran second breath into sleep arrows, into not precise shooting, the doublet, and if you had force of wind, I think that Boreas is good. I know this is supposed to be me talking about Boreas, but I think Boreas is good if you run it with other things. It's not good by itself, and that's why Boreas is so low. And I think that Robot is so low because it works really well, but you also need so many other things to win. You can't just run Robot by himself. You need the Harley Quinn, you need the Mime, you need to be focusing on merging, but then you also need to, so that you need that for early game, you need it for late game, but then you need another answer even later game than that. It's very susceptible to Witch. It's very susceptible to all of the debuffs. So if you do go late game, you get your level 6 robot, and then it gets king puddinged. What are you going to do about it? Like, you can't run enough things to make robot last late game. Like, once you start going into triple bosses, if you can hang that long, once you start going into triple bosses that affect the field, even if you kill them, what are you going to do? That's the reason why I think that robot is good. It's not S tier. I think that Meteor and Minotaur, they're both in like the same deck. They're both kind of used in the same, like in similar ways. I think that they're good. I think it's a good deck. But like I said with Robot, I think it's good, but you need so many other things to make it work, and it doesn't work infinitely. There's a point where it just drops off, and even at max talents from both Meteor and Minotaur, I think that they don't have the longevity as any of the attacking units up here. Like, all of the attacking units up here, they don't need anything else to make them work. Like, they just need, like, if you have Blade Dancer, you just need to upgrade your Blade Dancer, and it just sits there and wins. If you upgrade your Inquisitor to a level 7, it just sits there and wins. Actually, by itself. That's why it's at the top of S tier. You can have one level 7 Inquisitor on a gadget tile and win against most decks. And that's dumb. Meteor and Minotaur, you need like the talents, you need the mana, you need the luck to have Minotaurs and more Meteors. As the game progresses, you just keep needing to summon in, and there will be a point where you can't summon in. Like you've used enough, your summon in cost is going to be so high that you just die. Whereas an Inquisitor deck or a Tesla deck, you don't reach that point of having your summon in cost be so much. At a certain point, you just get to level 7 and you win, or you don't win. With Meteor and Minotaur, it's all dependent on how much mana you can make and how lucky you are with either Harlequinning Meteors and getting like the Bolide thing, or you know, like killing enough things or slowing down enough things so that because every deck now has the ability to go late game, Minotaur kind of dropped off. Minotaur used to be able, it is the best stun / slow card in the game, which is why it's even on the list in any significant way. And with the talents that they added, it just gets better. Like, I think, what is it, Ancient Rampage or Empire's Fall? Empire's Fall, Madness, Empire's Fall, and I think Crack, and then the max one is what most people run. And it's good, and it slows and it damages, but it doesn't slow and damage, and it doesn't slow and damage enough to matter, because now every deck can go into late game. When every deck couldn't go into late game, you could go into late game and then kill your opponent just by slowing them down. Not even by killing off monsters, you would just slow it down enough to where they couldn't slow, or they chose not to slow because Trapper was dumb and nobody used Trapper, so most people just use like Stasis or Frost or Bombardier. But now that Trapper is so good, the effect of Minotaur against those kinds of decks is very limited, because they're slowing down the field as well as you. So you don't even have that edge late game. I think they're still good. If you go up against them, it's very scary. But I don't think that they're S tier. Shaman and Witch, I think they're both still good. They're both still fine, but I don't think that they are as good as they were, because of the amount of cleansing and the amount of portal keepers running around, and how much everybody has to be aware that Dark Priest and King Pudding and Virus are a thing. In the current meta, there's so much cleanse everywhere, between Blade Dancer, between Spirit Master, between Inquisitor, between Monk, between merge decks that are Meteor and Minotaur. There are so many ways to get rid of Witch that I don't think it works as well as it used to. And then Shaman, because there's a 4-second, you have a much bigger window of time to react to it. That almost never does anything either. And the fact that the 4-second window exists, it exists for you and your opponent. So for your opponent, the window exists so that they have 4 seconds to react. For you, you have to wait 4 seconds, because if you send another shaman, it could potentially hit the same thing and then they could merge it, because now it's not instant. With it not being instant, if you send 2, or if you send like the original strategy for shaman was to merge out all of your shamans at the same time, because then it would hit and they'd all die. Now with the 4-second, it has 4 seconds to theoretically hit the same thing again, or hit something else, and then they have the time to merge those 2 units. And that's equally as terrible. So now, every time you do a shaman, you have to wait the same 4 seconds that they have the reaction time for, which makes shaman worse. It's not terrible, because it's obviously still good in co-op, which is obviously still good in co-op, which is why they're so high, but I don't think they are as good as they used to be in a previous build where they were among the best. Cultist, they said that they're going to make better in the next update. I hope they do. They said that they're going to make it easier to get to get stacks for Cultist. I like that they upgraded Cultist. I think that Harbinger of Evil is definitely the better one of the two. This one gives you like a shaman effect, but again, they have 4 seconds to deal with it. I think that increasing the cultist damage by 1% and then getting the Harbinger is a much cooler version of sacrifice of wanting to sacrifice. But I don't think that cultist is good if you just have the level 9. I think you have to have the level 11 talent as well, because you need Great Ritual. I suppose there's an idea that Cleansing Sacrifice is better, but I think that you'd be running Portal Keeper anyway, so you could move them to cleanse something. And I think Great Ritual is better because it destroys cultists and other units on the field corners. And they also have a 15% chance of granting a soul, which is what you need for Harbinger of Evil. I don't have the other talents, and I trust that it just makes everything better. But I think for cultists to even kind of work, you need at least the level 11 talent, because I've been playing cultist in like mirror match or events, and without being able to sacrifice random, or for when you start sacrificing onto the corners and hoping for cultists, when they become something bad, like a level 2 Portal Keeper, and then you merge two level 2 Portal Keepers onto the corner, and it becomes a level 3 Portal Keeper, you're just like, well, this is just gonna stay here forever. Or I think most people run sword with it. So like when it becomes like a level 3 regular non-awakened sword, you're like, okay, well, I guess I just have a sword in this corner for no reason. When you have Great Ritual and you have the ability to start merging onto those corners, and if it doesn't become a Dryad, which is what you should be running in this deck, Dryad and Portal Keeper as opposed to Scrapper, when it becomes something that is not a Dryad, when you merge into corners, or not a cultist, you can just immediately get rid of everything and then try again. And I think it's a good way to cycle. I think cultist is much better than it used to be, obviously, but I don't think that it gets better until you have 11. But I mean, even if you had a max cultist, I don't think it's as good as the S tier cards. I think it's a good card. I think it's fine. We'll see what changes they make next update. But for now, I think it's fine. It's just not amazing. I put Harley Quinn at the bottom of A. Its uses. It does what it's supposed to do. Obviously, if it gets talents, it'll become much better, whatever they do with it. But for now, I think it's a great utility card. It's definitely an A tier utility card. It's something that you will use, but it's not something that is worth talking about, I suppose. It's good. It does the thing that it needs to do. And that's pretty much it. I think you know why Harley Quinn is good. B tier cards, I feel like both of these cards will be better if they have talents. I think as is right now, Corsair especially, Corsair used to be like one of the top cards. Yeah, I had it at the top of like A. I didn't think that it was great, but it was one of the decks that was ruling. It just wasn't at ruling as hard as Tesla was. But I had it at like the number 2 damage card. And that's what it was. With all of the virus and, all of the effects, it basically made that deck useless. If you don't understand why, I uploaded a video where I was playing Blade Dancer, and I titled it, "Why You Shouldn't Play Corsair." Just go watch that video. The match that I played is at the end of that game. Corsair, in its current form, without talents isn't good anymore. There's too many debuffs for Corsair to be good. It's not a good merge out card in the way that Meteor and Minotaur is. It can't just sit on the field because you need it to have attack speed, and it can very easily get witched, dark priested, virused, or king puddinged, and then it's just useless on the field with no way of merging it out. Because in that deck, there's nothing for it to merge out into that can replace having another Corsair. If you merge it out and it doesn't become another Corsair and it becomes an Executioner or a Dryad or a Summoner, whatever that deck runs, it's just not good. Demon Hunter, I think that Demon Hunter in its current form is okay, but because it doesn't have talents, again, I don't think it's that great. I think those are like the next tier down cards, but they don't have talents. And I think if they had talents, they'd at least be an A, if not S. C tier, all of these are basically either, I feel like Boreas serves a very strange role. I think that if you have a max Boreas with sleep arrows and the speed up on the level 15 speed up talent, I think there's a potential to run the Boreas clock deck, even though they made clock worse. It's like Boreas, clock, like Reaper, Necromancer. It's an interesting deck. It's supposed to work against every deck. I think that's the only way that Boreas is good. Boreas is not a great damaging unit. It falls off very fast. It's more of like a Bombardier kind of tech card, a card you use for its abilities rather than its damage. Even though it's supposed to be a damage card, you're using it for sleep arrows and you're using it for the level 15 talent. You're not using it for its damage, which means you need another damaging card. But then you want to run it with Clock, which is also not a damage card. And then you want to run it with Dryad so that you can pump it up. What I'm trying to say is, even at max talent, Boreas never impresses me because you need so many other things to make it work. I think Reaper is a really strong C tier card. It's a utility card. It knows what it is. It's much better in co-op than it is in PvP. I don't know why, but it feels like it never works as well as it should in PvP. But in co-op, it feels like it's always, for lack of a better term, swooshing. The ability, what's the ability? The Grim Harvest ability, where it has the ability to insta-kill, a 25% chance to hit all targets in a small radius. I think that is the best version, but for some reason, it feels like that procs much more in co-op than it does in PvP, and I don't know why, but it feels like it does. And for that reason, I think it's a strong C card. If it felt like it procced more in PvP, I guess it would be B, but not anything higher than that. I think Gargoyle with talents will be really good, but I think that sits pretty well in a C tier right now. Like, it's good, but it just doesn't do the damage that it needs to. Summoner will always be Summoner, in the same way that Clock will always be Clock, and Mime will always be Mime. Bruiser is another card that I think will be much better with talents. Demonologist, I have like a level 9 Demonologist, and I don't use it as much as I feel like I should. Archdemon is obviously the better talent of the two. Sinister Technique, so that you can Archdemon even more, is much better as well. I think Magical Deal is the better one. Maybe Demonic Horde? Maybe Demonic Horde is better? I don't know. I know that Archdemon and Sinister Technique are the only two that I would ever even care about, so that you can stun your opponent. But I mean, that's just another card in your deck that I feel like you can use anything else. I think it's fine. I think that it would be funny to run in like a robot deck, where every single summon in of a robot you're stunning, and then whenever you merge that, it's giving you the mana as well as upping your current count on your field, because you're summoning it. You're merging out. It's a merge deck, so you're merging out two things and you're getting a level 2 thing. So it could become a level 2 robot, or it can become a level 2 Harlequin, which you can Harlequin a robot. I think that it's stunning upon stunning. And then you could run Clock. I think that's a deck. But I mean, beyond like a robot deck, I don't know. Like most people don't. There are better options for running things in co-op. Giving your opponent mana or giving your co-op partner mana isn't really more effective than just using Clock Witch Shaman. I think I'd rather do that than give my opponent mana that they may or may not use. I think it's fine. It has max talent, so this is the best it's ever going to be. And I think it is just kind of what it is. All of the D cards, I don't even really want to necessarily talk about. I think those are the quote-unquote worst cards in the game right now. In the top, like 5, or top this amount, in the top this amount, Chemist is the best. Bombardier, Banner is still fine. Priestess, Cauldron, Executioner, Zealot, and Rogue, and maybe Engineer. I think those are like the okay cards of the bad list. But all of those cards, if you have any of the above cards, just use the above cards. If you have a Trapper, stop using Chemist and Bombardier. If you have, like Inquisitor or Blade Dancer or Robot or, just anything else, Demon Hunter, Corsair, stop using Zealot and Rogue. If you have just higher damage cards, stop using Executioner. And then Cauldron you really only use because you had Zealot. And like, I don't think, maybe you use Cauldron and like the Corsair deck, but that's like a B tier level deck now at best. I just find that like any of these cards, even though they are the best versions of D, I don't think that you should use them if you have any of the above cards. And then everything else is just bad. Cold Elemental, Thrower, Ivy. Stasis is fine, but Trapper's better. Sentry, Grindstone, Cold Mage. Cold Mage is fine, but Minotaur is better. Like if you don't have Minotaur, I guess you can use Cold Mage, but again, Trapper is better than Cold Mage. Catapult, Trapper is better. Crystalmancer, if it had talents, like it could be better. Plague Doctor, Portal Mage is just terrible. Vampire, Cauldron is better, but Cauldron is also in D. Pyrotechnic, Lightning Mage, Thunder Mage, Wind Archer. Boreas is better than Wind Archer, but at best, Boreas is a C. Alchemist, Fire Mage, Archer, Poisoner, and Earth Elemental. I love that they introduce Earth Elemental and Cold Elemental, and they're still just terrible. And then, as far as my extra list goes, these are all niche cards that if you are running it in a deck, it works as a support card. It works as a slot-in support card, but I didn't know where to place them because they're all kind of all over the place. And depending on the deck that you're running, it can be better or worse than another card, but they're all kind of good in their own right. I think Frost is much better with talents, now that it has talents. The abilities, the Frost abilities are insane, especially at max. Hunter is part of the Hex deck, and because it's part of the Hex deck, I put them both here. I don't think the Hex deck is great, but it is a deck and it does stuff. Sharpshooter, I think, is one of the best utility cards, especially now. I think it's much better now than it has ever been. Night Statue is fine. It's with Scrapper, it's really good. Without Scrapper, it's not very good. Enchant Sword, I think probably you could make an argument that it should probably be an A, or at the very least B maybe. I think it's good. I don't think it's the best thing. I think that you have to have at least Awakening on it. The Awakened Sword, where you're constantly getting the 20% chance. You have 20% chance of having an Awakened Sword, and it applies the effect of the color to one target every 15 seconds. It's good, but it's also really slow. And it has the ability to hit anything other that's not a sword. So that includes your Harlequins on the board. It includes your Dryads on the board. It includes your Scrappers on the board. Things that are, what I'm trying to say, that it will basically do nothing to. So as good as it is, I don't think that Sword is as good as the hype would suggest. I think it's fine. I think that it has its usages, but I don't think it's as good as most people would give it. But I just didn't know where to place it. I feel like most people would place it in S because it's being used in so many decks. But I think there are better options. I think Trapper's a better option. I think Scrapper's a better option. I think even theoretically Minotaur is maybe a better option. I don't know. I think I'd rather use a utility card like a Trapper than making just like my field slightly better or your field theoretically slightly worse. I say theoretically because most people can cleanse now, like I said. So theoretically your red debuffs aren't even gonna like matter. And if your debuffs don't even matter, increase, and you're only using like half of its reasoning for being in your deck, I don't know if it's that great. But yeah, those are my thoughts. That was actually fun. I liked doing an updated tier list. I think that a lot of things have happened since the last tier list. And so, yeah, let me know what you think in the comments.